The police also need to be cautioned seriously because they assist in aiding and abetting these illegalities that happen in our society. If you find someone wanting due to comment or social media, the best place to go is the court of law and not harassing your fellow citizens with the police after being induced with money, of course. That is why the rich continue to manipulate society to favor themselves.
Let's talk about corruption, illegal arrests, detention of citizens, and disrespect for human rights in Nigeria, and how the government is supposed to turbocharge the fight against them all. Well, tonight, an interesting conversation with the human rights lawyer Femi Falana, who's become a sort of stormtrooper for the advancement of the rule of law in Nigeria, this country's unofficial public protector. Over the years, he's become notably famous for taking on the powers that be in defense of civil rights and against the misuse of everything from public funds to powers of arrest. He is a legal activist who's been unwavering in his determination to hold public officials accountable. Mr. Falana believes that this country, along with all its flaws, can become a properly constituted legal agency to fight not only corruption, but all forms of officially sanctioned illegalities. But why do Nigeria's government agencies often come across as, to many, as a hindrance rather than a help in the battle to entrench the rule of law? Well, for more on all of this, I'm joined now in the studio by the senior advocate of Nigeria and respected human rights lawyer, Femi Falana. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, Charles.
I mean, it's always such a pleasure having you here. And I mean, you have such a wealth of knowledge and experience across the law. I'm never quite sure where to begin. So let us start somewhere that you and I had discussed previously, which is the issue, for example, of cybercrime. There is the Cybercrime Act, from what you have said. It has been amended and essentially reduced in terms of the number of places that people can be charged, areas people can be charged with. I think it's limited to pornographic material. And they've removed things like, somebody annoys you or on the internet, cyber stalking, all the rest of it. But you contend that people are still being arrested for all that. Tell us more.
Yeah, what happened was that in 2015, the Cybercrime Act was enacted by the National Assembly, Section 24. Provided that anybody who sent any message through the computer that contained insults or that annoyed people, cyber stalking and the rest of them, will be deemed to have committed an offense, and tried and jailed or made to pay some fine. That provision of the law was seen by the human rights community to be inconsistent with the freedom of expression guaranteed by the Constitution as well as the African Charter. And so what we did, I think we had an instruction from SERAP to approach the African court, the ECOWAS court in Abuja here. And in the judgment delivered by that court, after listening to SERAP's counsel and the government, was to come to the conclusion that that provision was inconsistent with Article 9 of the African Charter, and therefore the government of Nigeria, was called upon to review the law. There was another case filed by another organization. My colleague, Olumide Babalola, handled the case, and again, the court came to the same conclusion. And so we now drew the attention of the National Assembly to its obligation, in line with the decisions of the ECOWAS court. And in February this year, the law was amended to remove those obnoxious provisions, such as annoying people, insulting people.
But cyber stalking isn't obnoxious, though.
Yeah. So the whole idea is, if you are offended by any publication, sue for libel, or go to court and put your reputation in issue. So the whole idea is not to criminalize freedom
Right.
of speech. So that has been removed. The law is now limited. That section is now limited to using the computer to send pornographic materials, because of immorality, and also sending such a message that can lead to civil disturbance, or breakdown, of law and order in the country. So, but unfortunately, journalists and other people have still been arrested and charged under the repealed provision of the law. So I do hope that the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation will, ought to draw the attention of the Nigerian Police Force and other security agencies to the current state of the law.
But of course, a lot of people don't actually know this, the fact that this law was amended.
Yeah, when the law was amended, I know I issued a statement to draw attention of the media and the public to the state of the law. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as you said, in a sense, it was criminalizing freedom of speech. But I mean,
so what you have in Nigeria today,
right?
Because the sedition, the provisions of the criminal code and penal code dealing with sedition have been expunged, as it were, by the Court of Appeal in 1983 in the case of Oton Wankwa and the state. But you still have the criminal libel in the criminal code. Again, Lagos State and Edo State have repealed the provisions of, relating to criminal libel. So we are asking other states to follow suit. So that at the end of the day, once you decriminalize freedom of expression, you now have to deal with the law of libel.
Right, but you made a very important point, which is the fact that people continue to get arrested, and not just for that.
Well, anytime,
but for a lot of other things.
Anytime any of my clients have been arrested under the repeal law, and we simply file an objection in court.
Right. No, I understand that, but I mean, you have the knowledge of the law, and not everybody has access to you. You see what I mean? To say, well, let's go to Femi Falana.
We're sending a letter. By the way, we're sending a letter to the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice to ensure that Nigerians are no longer harassed or intimidated under a repeal law.
Yeah, but I wonder how you actually cope with the weight of all these. I mean, because so many people just listening to you and your reputation and so on would want to be represented by you. I mean, what do you do? Do you sort of say, oh no, I won't represent you, I'm afraid your case isn't sort of interesting enough or big enough? Because you must have a lot of people coming to you.
We don't reject bricks from the poor. But from the rich, we choose.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, if you are charged with corruption, we're not likely to defend you. We just simply ask you, look for another lawyer. Because for us, that's our own little way of contributing to the task of fighting corruption in our country.
Right. So I'd better start looking for another lawyer.
If
in that case. I like that. But I mean, technically, I mean, if you say you represent the poor, how do you sort of compensate yourself?
Well, we have a few rich clients, so we take from the rich to service the poor.
Right.
But what we don't do,
a sort of Robin Hood scenario.
Yeah. What we don't do is to turn away the poor from the temple of justice. Once you have a good case, we should be able to intervene, and it's not limited to this territory. I mean, we just some 2 journalists have been charged, editors of the Voice newspaper in the Gambia, and I've been requested to intervene, and I've done a letter to the president of that country.
That's fascinating.
President,
you must lead a really interesting life.
Gambia has gone beyond this level. After Yaya Jammeh, please get your lawyer to file a civil action, withdraw the criminal case against the charged with criminal libel, Just 2 days ago, I was informed that the president's lawyer has filed a civil action. We are therefore asking the president, since your lawyer has filed a civil action on your behalf, don't use the machinery of the state to harass your opponents. And that's how it should be.
Very interesting. And do you find that a preponderant majority of those whose human rights are violated tend to be people lower down the economic scale?
No, for sure.
In Nigeria?
Yeah. Being a class society, when you offend a big man, he says, we shall meet in court. He calls a lawyer to file an action. When you abuse the rights of the poor, he will simply say, God will take charge. God day, you know. Because he cannot afford the services of a lawyer. Even though it is said that the law is for everybody. No, it's not for the poor. The rich make the law. And because a lot of these laws are a carryover from the colonial regime, these laws, I mean, just like sedition law, criminal libel, and so on and so forth, were imported to Nigeria by the British colonial regime to intimidate our people and to force them to accept alien administration. Those who took over in 1960 didn't deem it fit to repeal colonial ordinances or laws. So what they simply did was to localize them, you know, whereas they were ordinances under the colonial regime, they now became acts of parliament. And under the military, they became decrees. And when we changed the military away, they became acts of parliament. But the content has remained the same, you know, and the content really is to intimidate the people, to cow the people to submission, so that you don't complain against economic policies of the government, for instance, that are not in your interest. And if you do that, you may be charged with treasonable felony.
Right. You talk about the rich, though. I mean, an instrument that is used by the rich are lawyers, aren't they? I mean, it's the lawyers. So the lawyers are, it doesn't matter what the situation is.
No, there's no apology about it.
They're making their money, aren't they?
Of course. In any bourgeois society, lawyers profit from the misfortune of our people.
Absolutely.
The poor.
That brings me to...
And that's when we say you know, there is a lady of justice, you know, erected, the symbol is erected in all the courts. We say in revolutionary parlance that lady, the scarf has been removed. And she has been raped.
No longer blind.
She has been raped by the rich.
Right. And by the lawyers.
Of course.
Particularly lawyers in Nigeria.
Of course. No. I do hope, with the new leadership of the bar, that lawyers will have to appreciate that we have a duty under the Constitution and other laws to prevent illegal arrest and detention in the country. Under the current human rights law regime in Nigeria, nobody should be detained illegally. Unfortunately, we're not taking advantage of the provisions of the Constitution, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, and the Police Establishment Act to, you know, stamp out illegal arrest and detention in the country.
And of course, the whole process of arrest has also been commercialized, hasn't it? I mean, if you say I've done something to you, I can go to, because I mean, there have been cases that I know of that somebody's filed something against them, you know, somebody at the EFCC, and then somebody goes to the same EFCC and files something else, and then the EFCC are coming after you and coming after, and it's all very confusing. And I wonder in that circumstance, how as a lawyer you would define corruption in this country.
You know, very interesting. And this is the language of the media and lawyers. When they allege that the EFCC engages in Gestapo tactics, I laugh. Because most of the time, the EFCC is dealing with the rich. Serving and former ministers, serving and former governors, and so on and so forth. Polite letters are written, invitation letters. Kindly find time to meet the undersigned. And the telephone number is stated there. So you call the guy. I won't be able to come until 2 weeks' time. And you fix an appointment. And you go there with your lawyer. For the poor, nobody writes letters to a poor person. In fact, a poor man is to be arrested. police will pounce on him. If it's not available, you may arrest the wife or any of the children and hold him or her hostage until the person shows up.
But is that legal?
That is the experience of the poor.
That's illegal,
no,
isn't it?
It's illegal.
Yeah.
Very illegal.
So why do they keep doing
Because
it?
under the law, you cannot arrest somebody in lieu of a criminal
Absolutely.
suspect. But again, as I said, we lawyers, I can say that, we lawyers and judges are not performing our duties under the law. For instance, under Section 34 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act and Section 70 of the Police Establishment Act, not less than once a month, a chief magistrate shall inspect or visit all police stations in his or her magisterial district, at least once a month. During the visit, the magistrate has the power to grant bail to anybody who deserves bail instant, or recommend that the person should be taken, arraigned in court. Or if a suspect has no business in the police station, the magistrate is empowered to order his or her release. Judges are required to perform the same function with respect to other detention facilities in the country. EFCC Detention Center, ICPC, NDLA, even armed forces. But these duties are not carried out. Some of the chief magistrates, yes, through the intervention of the Bar Association, but I have requested, for instance, since 2015, repeatedly requested the leadership of the Bar Association get the branches of the NBA. Today we have 128 branches. Each of them has a human rights committee. So I'm simply pleading, let the committee members liaise with the relevant chief magistrate so that you can even accompany them to carry out these duties. So that, and because during the visit, the chief magistrate is also empowered to make recommendations and report officers who may have violated the rights of people. Now, the chief judge, with profound respect, of the Federal High Court, right, hasn't appointed designated judges to carry out the function. We currently have a case in court. I had to sue the chief judge to perform the duty. What will also interest you is that we have about 5,000 police stations in Nigeria. The Police Establishment Act, Section 66, provides that every police station shall have a lawyer assigned to it to monitor human rights observance. Every police station.
You mean a government lawyer, a government appointed lawyer?
The police authority shall assign a lawyer.
Right, so the police authority themselves, right.
To be in every police station and monitor human rights compliance there. That has not been done.
Look,
Again, we have a case in court on this to compel the National Assembly that made this law to fund the police to be able to employ at least 5,000 lawyers to monitor human rights enforcement in our country. For me, if the provisions of the law, these two laws, are enforced, we shouldn't. Illegal detention and arrest would be a thing of the past in the country.
Mr. Falana, I have to say it's an absolute delight talking to you. I mean, I wish we could talk more. This is such a fascinating topic. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to come in to talk to us. Femi Falana is a famous human rights lawyer and a senior advocate of Nigeria. That's it.
After listening to Femi Falana's explanation and detailed analysis of what the law says about cybercrime, talking about the mere insults we see in form of comments on social media that people take so seriously, and subsequently go into harassing people with the police